This is a FarmDoc Daily webinar. I'm University of Illinois Extension's Todd Gleason. Today, what is PCM? Driving profitability through conservation and data. We're joined by Greg Goodwin and Megan Miller. Good morning to you both. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Todd.
Yep. Good morning, Todd.
Well, let's turn off our cameras. We'll come back at the end to answer all of the questions and turn our cameras back on. But to get started, Greg's going to take us through a few things as we begin the program. Greg?
Thank you, Todd. I really appreciate that intro. And thank you, Jim, for all the work you do behind the scenes and the FarmDoc team for producing this great content. Yeah, I'll start off. I'm Greg Goodwin, the director of the Precision Conservation Management Program with the Illinois Corn Growers Association. And honored and privileged to be with you all today, and just going to kind of walk through details about our program and yeah, just give you some deeper insights and hopefully some of the principles and rationale behind it and go from there. PCM was started by the Illinois Corn Growers Association, and we consider this to be the premier conservation program of the Illinois corn growers, also serving alongside Nebraska and Kentucky. Really appreciate those state affiliates, and we have regions in those states as well. The program was started in response to the Illinois nutrient loss reduction strategy. The Illinois corn growers essentially started this program wanting to help give farmers a way to understand the main concern a lot of farmers have with respect to adopting new practices. And all the things we focus on here in PCM are aimed at nutrient loss reduction and have a host of other benefits also. Want to quickly mention, the goal set out by this document and these reports. Essentially, for the whole Mississippi River Basin, there was a goal of a 45% reduction in total nitrogen and total phosphorus loss by 2035. And then as a state, decided to put an interim goal of 15% reduction in nitrate nitrogen and a 25% reduction in total P by 2025, which if anybody's been looking at their calendar recently, they understand it is 2025. And I think a lot of folks are looking at these interim goals and where we stand with respect to those as a state, a lot of which is reliant on the agricultural land and runoff within the state. And so yeah, very focused on that, as a lot of other groups are, and frankly have a fair way to go with respect to improvement there. And so we'll tell you some ways in which you can think about changes you might make that would help with that nutrient loss coming off your farm. So just to step up and kind of give some goals and background on PCM, some of the main goals of our program are to understand how conservation practices impact farm net returns. We understand that, every decision a farmer makes, they have to think about how that impacts their bottom line. And so that is one of the core goals and foundational principles the program takes into consideration. We also want to help farmers understand how to address water quality concerns on their farm and ultimately prevent agricultural regulation. We believe farmers are innovators and don't want to stifle that, and don't want to see that stifled, and believe farmers need the freedom to operate. And so take that into a core consideration of how the program is designed as well. And again, affiliated with the Illinois Corn Growers Association, who can take that information to those who do think about regulation and advocate on your behalf. And really also, we work to position farmers to benefit from positive conservation outcomes. So there are lots of organizations and companies that we'll talk about a little bit later that, want to understand the environmental benefits from agriculture when it comes to conservation practices and are willing to compensate farmers for that. And we want to make sure that farmers are able to receive as much of that as they can. And so we really work hard to try to understand those opportunities and again, position farmers to benefit from those changes they may be willing to make or what they already may even be doing. So how do we do this? We really do this by trying to help farmers gain access to one-on-one technical support through our network of conservation specialists that we'll talk a little bit more about later. And data is always going to be key for this, and we want to make sure that you get your data sort of organized, and we have a data collection platform designed by farmers with farmers in mind, and meant to really be how farmers think about their data. And been a lot of really good and careful work put into this behind the scenes. Talk a little more about that later, but really can't speak enough about our partnerships there and how they've helped us do that. And then we also want to help connect farmers to the proper agronomy resources and information and expertise when it comes to making a change to help farmers avoid, management missteps, and just position you to be successful from the very beginning and connect you to all the right resources in order to be able to do that. And so we also provide you with an annual report based on the information that you have shared with us along the year. And we'll talk a bit more about that, both of those aspects a little bit later. But what you're going to receive in that report, we call that a resource analysis and assessment plan. And that is going to provide you with financial and sustainability benchmarking so that you can see how you compare to yourself in time as you maybe do adopt changes to see how those things play out, as well as others in the program, both at a regional and state scale. So everything is anonymized and aggregated, but you're going to receive those valuable comparisons to see how things are playing out for those who maybe take different approaches than you do. And we think that's a pretty valuable offering. You're going to receive economic cost tables that break all of this down, helping you understand how these things affect your variable costs, your fixed costs, things of that nature, and just, again, break down this all for in terms of comparisons for different management strategies and approaches. And then offer environmental assessments to help you really see how those things you're currently doing or any changes you make impact sort of the environmental impacts associated with farming, and break that all down for you, again, in a benchmark comparison, both to yourself in time and others in the program. Just want to give a bit of information in terms of how we work with farmers. We offer farmers a $750 participation payment split across 2 years. We'll mention that in a bit more detail and kind of what time commitment associated with that later. But we also offer farmers exclusive programs related to cost share and incentive opportunities. Megan Miller will be deep diving on that in the second half of our program here today also. And then we also offer peer-to-peer education and networking opportunities. So chances to hear directly from farmers who have taken on some of these different types of farming practices, learn from their mistakes, things of that nature, understand how they've, looked at profitability as they've done that. And yeah, just great opportunities to learn through field days and things like that. Also want to mention, and can't overstate the importance of partnerships and how critical that is to all the work that PCM does. All the partners listed on this page are either contributing directly to financial assistance or technical assistance that we're able to offer our farmers through putting support towards our RCPP grants or other grants that we have currently got that, again, allow us to offer farmers financial assistance and technical assistance as they go to make any practice changes. PCM was started by an RCPP grant back in 2016 through the USDA NRCS, and again, can't thank them enough, and can't thank our other partners such as PepsiCo and others throughout time that have, again, helped us to offer the program and really multiply farmer checkoff dollar investment. So I mentioned before that it was started by the Illinois Corn Growers Association through checkoff dollar investment, and we've been able to leverage that investment to the tune of about 11 times their investment through partnerships and grant funding. Just wanted to give a bit of a context of where we're currently at with respect to the program size. We currently work with about 524 farmers, farming and in control of a little over 560,000 acres, and representing now over 10 years of data in the PCM data set. can't speak to the tremendous longevity there and just hard work behind the scenes by Dr. Laura Gentry and a number of others. Dr. Gary Schnicke, we'll talk a bit more about both of them later. And again, through that partnerships of more than 30 organizations who support what we're doing and how we're going about it, and just helping us provide a lot of tremendous valuable information to farmers throughout our program and beyond. Here, just wanted to take a moment to recognize the team and the individuals that work with our farmers day to day throughout, again, Illinois, parts of Nebraska, and parts of Kentucky. These folks will show up at your house or at your barn or meet you at a coffee shop or a various number of locations in order to try to make it convenient for you as a farmer to participate. We take a lot of pride in really trying to be flexible in how we work with our farmers in order to, not be something else that you dread doing, but something that you actually look forward to and are hopefully learning a lot of valuable things from. And these individuals are truly bought into our mission and just can't speak highly enough about them. And then they are led by the first conservation specialist with the PCM program, Mr. Clay Bess, up in the upper right corner there, who is now our operations manager, who helps work with these folks and support them on the daily to make sure they can do their jobs effectively. And not listed here, but we'll make mention of it. We will be launching a new region in Kentucky. So look out for a job posting there. It's actually currently live on our website. And plan to be also launching a new region in Missouri, and eager to expand into Missouri to be able to offer PCM there in conjunction with the Missouri Corn Growers Association and their support. So if you're looking to find PCM and find who you would be working with, sort of based on those maps on the last page, you can visit our website at precisionconservation.org. And this link is right on the landing page. Find your specialist. You can take a moment to scan the QR code, but that will direct you to the information you saw on the previous slide and allow you to email those folks directly and ask about joining the program, ask them any specific questions that you may have about what that entails. For any information that I leave out or you don't have based on this webinar. So quickly also want to go through some of the sort of principles behind how PCM started and things that we just think are foundational to, profitable farming and sustainable farming and, leaving the farm to the next generation, as good or better than you found it. And sort of one of the core ideas there is just that informed decisions are the basis for profitable farming, and one thing we talk about a lot in PCM and that you'll see when you receive data from PCM is that more bushels don't always mean more profit. And that data analysis helps farmers focus on maximizing the return per acre, not just yield. We really believe in this and believe that, again, that is the basis for sustainability. And that leads us into our next idea and principle that economic stability is the basis for environmental stability, and conservation must make financial sense for farmers to be adopted at scale and sustained over time. We'll talk a bit about how that works out from individual practice adoption, and then Megan will also tell you about, again, other opportunities to be compensated for conservation changes. And here, just that successful farmers are the basis for a successful supply chain. And yeah, the folks that do produce fuel and food and fiber from the commodities that farmers produce really need to have successful farmers at the basis of their supply chain in order to run their businesses. And that needs to be resilient and sustainable in order to do that. And basically, you all produce commodities that you need buyers for, and they need to purchase those commodities to run their successful businesses. And for all of you to work together, we try to provide ways that allow farmers to make the best possible returns from those things, especially as it relates to decisions that affect their sustainability and conservation. So PCM was also just designed with a very farmer-first focus. Again, started by the Illinois Corn Growers Association with farmers in mind. Well, not only farmers in mind, but by farmers, by a group of farmers working closely with the staff. Again, Dr. Laura Gentry at the Corn Growers Association. And so our staff is really meant to think about that first and foremost in protecting the viability and longevity of farms. And we try to pay attention to all the things that we know farmers would struggle to keep up with. Frankly, we often struggle to keep up with, even though that's our full-time job, just due to the pace of change in this space. But we really try to take to heart all the different things that would affect a farmer's decision-making and their returns in order to be able to present that to you in a concise and easy to understand fashion. And we do this also, you don't have to. So again, technical assistance with data collection, our team of specialists will do this for you, tell you about conservation programming, help break down your own data analysis for you when they go to deliver your report each year, give you recommendations from experts on what they believe is the right fit for you, provide you with cost share opportunity information within our own program and beyond. We want you to make the right decision for your own farm. And we understand we're not going to be the perfect fit for everybody. And we also want you to understand that to sign up and work with us, even though we have conservation in our name, even if you are not currently doing conservation practices, there is no practice change required to sign up and work with us. Our benchmarking is to try to identify the most profitable farming strategies, whether that is conservation based or not. And that information is highly valuable for us to be able to use in conversations as we advocate on behalf of farmers and for funding to help close that gap when we do identify that a conservation-based strategy may not be the most economic approach or best economic approach for a farmer. And then we do again want to help compensate you for the time you take to sit down and share your information with us. And so again, we offer that sign up enrollment bonus also. Here, just want to take a moment to show you the data collection page that will show you and work with you to fill out when you first sign up with us. Again, we'll do this all on your behalf. The specialist will sit there and ask you these questions. And our approach is really designed to try to strike a balance between giving you the absolute most accurate data possible, as well as balance out with the time commitment that you'll be needing to make and what format you may have your data in. So for the economic approach, we do use aggregated information based on FBFM data, or farm business farm management data, affiliated with the University of Illinois, and pair that with the passes that you're going to be making across the field to help you determine what the average cost of those are. And then again, that's how we do our benchmarking to show you comparisons between different approaches. And that gives us the ability to produce meaningful insights and again, calculate outcomes and show you those differences in different approaches. Again, PCM specialists will enter that data for you and can work with you to put your data in any format, whether that's records in a shoebox or whether that's your My John Deere account or climate account. We take a lot of pride in being able to work with you to digest that information in whatever shape, form, or fashion you may have that. Just to revisit here, the time commitment. Again, you're going to receive $500 your first year at sign up into the program and another $250 after 1 year in the program. And really that equates to 4 touch points that we like to make with farmers throughout the crop year. At least 3 in person is our goal. And 1 can be over the phone because it's usually a relatively quick touch point. But those are summer data collection and enrollment. That can take anywhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how many fields you would like to enroll. We do ask that you enroll at least 20% of your farm when you sign up, in order to make sure we have what we consider a good statistical representation of your practices and your farm, and be able to give you the best insights from that. But then we really often find that farmers are signing up their entire farm. It's like, well, I've taken the time to do this, I might as well sign up the entire farm and gain those insights on all my fields. And if I neglected to mention, I will mention it now. All the data farmers are asked to share with the program are at a field level. So we're intaking your data on a field by field basis, and asking you questions about every pass you make across that field. And that is how we do the benchmarking and allow you to gain those insights from making changes in future years. We also make a fall visit to discuss next year's practices. That's usually a relatively casual conversation. And then we also talk to you just after harvest to try to gain your yields. That's obviously paramount to calculating accurate returns and providing you those best economic insights. And then the following year, in this time frame right now, February to middle of March, sometimes beginning of April, the specialists will come out, visit you on your farm, and sit down with you and break down that report. And that visit can take as long as you'd like, in order to make sure you get all your questions answered around the data that was provided, and any insights they're sharing back with you. Again, just started to touch on this, but the resource analysis and assessment plan is our #1 farmer deliverable. That's, again, what our team is out getting ready to visit with farmers and deliver right now. It's an in-person report just for your farm, but it has those comparisons that I mentioned. And do know we take the data privacy that's related to the information you share with us in the absolute most critical privacy standards. We do not share that individual information with anybody, unless it's related to getting you paid or something like that. But otherwise, all the information ever shared with any partners or analysis partners is aggregated and anonymized, in order to keep your personal information safe. Again, in these reports, it's going to offer you financial and environmental assessments, whole farm and field by field. We're going to provide you with a conservation dashboard that just kind of shows you the current state of conservation adoption on your farm. Tell you about available cost share programs. Again, Megan Miller will be diving into that later. And then also inform you of local resource concerns. So, what watershed are you farming in? Are there drinking water sources there? Are there concerns about groundwater quality? Things of that nature that just help you kind of raise your awareness a little bit to those potential concerns for where you're farming. So next, we'll also tell you a little bit about the feedback we've received from farmers related to the reports we deliver. And we're always excited to receive this feedback. Really encourage those who do participate with us to fill out these surveys. There's a link directly on, I think, a QR code on all of our RAP reports that we'll be delivering. But we feel super good about the feedback that we have received to date, basically telling us that 100% of the farmers want to continue with PCM and find value in the insights they receive. 96% of the farmers would recommend this program to a neighbor. Really feel really good about that statistic. And then in terms of making practice changes, we're also feel really good about this information. Based on the data they receive from PCM, for those that have not already adopted practices on their whole farm, 64% of respondents are likely to reduce or eliminate tillage based on the information they receive from us. 60% are likely to apply at MRTN rates, or maximum return to nitrogen rates for nitrogen, based on the data they receive from PCM. And 72% are likely to apply nitrogen in season based on the information they receive from PCM and that profitability information related to those strategies. And then also, even though sometimes we don't have the most warm and fuzzy message to say about cover crop adoption and profitability, 63.5% also are likely to try or expand cover crops based on the information they receive from us. So beyond the value that we believe farmers gain from working directly with PCM, we do also have a mission to use data for good and work with people and provide insights to folks beyond those just participating directly in the program. Obviously, we feel like we do provide valuable information to those working directly with us, but beyond that, there's a lot of valuable information that we put out in annual data publications that go out through the Prairie Farmer magazine that reaches roughly 30,000 plus readers each year, and then webinars just like this and others that we do throughout the year, in addition to putting on conferences or participating in conferences and panels where our expert staff, again, Dr. Laura Gentry, our operations manager, Clay Bess, and others sit and break down this information to, again, help farmers across the Midwest move forward, and then provide valuable insights to academics, researchers, and decision makers who are thinking about all of this when they go to generate policy and make decisions related to agriculture. Again, analysis, by the experts. So we feel this relationship we have with FarmDoc is extremely valuable. We are very grateful to have the insights of Dr. Gary Schnicke, and again, our very own Dr. Laura Gentry, who is on staff with the Illinois Corn Growers Association, helped launch the PCM program, as well as an adjunct faculty here at University of Illinois. And we provide these key findings in a variety of ways. Again, kind of mentioned the FarmDoc webinars, the PCM business case publications that we put out, and again, the PCM educational and farmer events that's put on by our conservation specialist staff and others affiliated with different programs and other partners such as the Soil and Water Conservation Districts. Again, a lot of valuable information and really just trying to move everyone in this space forward. If you have ideas or questions that are generated by any of the content or information we put out, we highly encourage that you reach out to us. We are very happy to talk about those things and get a lot of joy out of that. And just quickly want to end with a couple of slides kind of related to things that we've already talked about, but expand on it just a little bit. But here at PCM, we believe that your trust is paramount, and anything that you receive from us that you may have questions about, please do reach out. We know that every conservation decision that you make is a business decision. That's one of our mantras within PCM. And we know it's been said that business moves at the speed of trust, and we therefore believe that conservation moves at the speed of trust. And you have to trust in the decisions that you're being asked to make or that you're thinking about making, trust in the advice you receive from us. And so we just want to be very transparent and help you know that we're here for you as a resource, especially as it relates to this sort of tough time that we know that a lot of farmers are facing in agriculture right now. With that, just wanted to kind of touch on this and help you understand too that our staff are constantly paying attention to the ag markets and current projections for revenue, and take this into consideration as we do make recommendations to hopefully, again, earn your trust and know that it's backed in sound information. And so I offer this just also to say you're not alone. The entire ag economy right now is in a little bit of a rough spot as commodity prices remain pretty low and inputs pretty high. We pay close attention to this, and then that is baked into our recommendations. But then again, just think of us as a resource to reach out to if you have any questions. We also know that the returns related to conservation adoption is not always the warm and fuzziest story. And just offer this as an example, won't go into great detail here, but this was a good resource we found offered by the World Economic Forum, a report they put out called Breakthrough Models for Financing a Sustainability Transition. their insights report from early of January 2024. And this just kind of gives you a sense of an expected time horizon to profitability. And the example they pull here is for a corn and soy farm in Illinois, adopting no-till and cover crops. And they pulled from a lot of different data sources, as you can see in the lower right corner. And this just, again, gives you kind of an understanding of the time horizon on average to profitability related to those adopting those practices, and just sort of helps set some expectations. So when you're thinking about timing and when might be the right decision or to make that decision to make a change, kind of keep these things in mind. Again, we're happy to offer insights there. As you'd see, some of our data is in here. And know that when you also see PCM data, you're usually looking at farmers who are probably in their second, third year on average, sometimes first year on average of adopting a practice. So when you may not always see the most warm and fuzzy story about cover crop adoption or the financial story there, take it with that grain of salt, please. But know that we keep a constant eye on this and really try to help farmers understand all of these things as they're being asked or encouraged to make practice changes. With that, I will hand it over to Megan Miller to tell you about conservation funding and how you can maybe make up some of those gaps.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. So I'm going to go into a few different aspects of conservation funding. I'll talk about PCM programs specifically, some questions you should ask as a farmer, how to prep for enrollment in a specific conservation funding program, and things to pay attention to. So PCM is partnered with a few different companies and programs for conservation funding. And especially if it's your first year transitioning to these practices, you can earn up to $60 an acre through PCM and the partner incentives. So we have a program with Field to Market and PepsiCo that will go into which practices that funds next, and then another one with Farmers for Soil Health that is running in, I think, around 20 states across the country. So some good opportunities to help fund your conservation practice adoption. So the first program I want to talk about is one of our core conservation funding programs, and it started with PepsiCo, and we have since partnered with Field to Market. And this is a program that pays farmers for cover cropping, tillage reductions, and reducing their nitrogen. And so because farmers in Illinois, Nebraska, and Kentucky are within PepsiCo's value chain, we are tracking the good work those farmers do, and that tracking happens in the form of a carbon asset. And so when you do enroll in this part of PCM, PepsiCo is technically claiming that carbon asset, but what they're really doing is accounting for your good work in their value chain. One thing we're really proud of to offer in this program is that you are able to participate if you have done any of these practices before. So you do get a slightly higher rate for cover crops, no-till, and strip-till the first and second year before corn and soy as you transition to those practices, but we are still able to pay you for your good work for your third year and beyond for cover cropping and no-till. MRTN, you know, that's a 10% reduction every year, so you would get that $10 per acre payment anytime you'd make that either MRTN reduction or a 10% nitrogen reduction. And so you can do just one of these practices or stack all three, and that will impact your payment rate. The next program is a statewide cover crop incentive program through our partners at Farmers for Soil Health. This is payments available for new and existing acres. I do want to note that the existing acres do receive $2 an acre, but potentially, you know, if you've been cover cropping for a long time, you know, a way to make some extra income on that. And you would also get access to DTN's digital marketplace, connecting you to other ecosystem service opportunities. They're still piloting this marketplace, but, you know, if you're kind of interested in trading your own carbon, this would be a way for you to do that. But just for converting to cover crops for 3 years, you'd get $25 an acre the first year, $15 an acre the second year, and $10 an acre the third year. You would have to be in all 3 years, but they do make an exception if you are, say, like a winter wheat grower. So one thing that can be very complicated with all of the conservation funding opportunities right now is figuring out how you can stack those conservation payments to really make up any potential losses you might be seeing during your transition to conservation agriculture. And your PCM specialist can show you the best options for your farm. Not only are they very aware of the programs we offer, they are aware of every program offered in your region, in your state, and will help you find the best one for your conservation goals. So there are a few stacking basics I do want to share with you just to keep yourself legal and out of any trouble. The first one is if you're receiving federal and state funding, so think of this as like EQIP or CSP from NRCS, or even fall covers for spring savings. You cannot be paid twice for the same practice on the same acre, and you are contracted by practice. So you could not be in, two USDA programs for cover cropping on the same acre at the same time, essentially. For any programs selling where carbon credits are sold, you cannot sell a carbon credit or receive a carbon intensity premium twice from the same acre, no matter the practice. So once that acre is accounted for in a carbon program, it is accounted for the length of your contract in that carbon program. And so you wouldn't be able to enroll, say, in PCM's PepsiCo program and Indigo on the same acre at the same time. So what I want to go through now are a few questions you should know before enrolling. And whether you're talking to us or any other program, please make sure you're asking that program rep these questions so you can go in armed with the most knowledge and understand what you're signing up for. So first question, and we'll go through these a bit more, is does this program pay only for new practices, or can you enroll if you have a history with conservation? Know how long your contract is. Those vary from 1 year to I've seen 10 to 20 years, depending on the program. What is the burden on your time as a farmer? Are you going to have to do data entry, or will someone do that for you? What is the payment structure? This is really important. Some programs kind of have a vesting schedule where you get paid out over 5 years. Other ones pay you half up front and half at the end of your contract. And some kind of pay you throughout the season. And so understanding that will just help you understand when cash is flowing and when any paperwork could be due. As I said earlier, understanding how to stack those payments and who's funding these different programs is really important. So asking what the funding source is will be very critical for you as you get started. And then what data are you going to need to share and how will it be used? And we'll go into a bit of that specifically for the PCM program. So again, the first question is, does this program pay only for new practices, or can you enroll if you have a history with a conservation practice? So many federal and state programs will only provide funding or buy outcomes generated from new practices. However, PepsiCo and Walmart really value, and our new partners at the Kentucky Distillers Association really value the leaders in this space and have partnered with us to provide funding to early adopters in addition to those who are just transitioning to these practices for the first time. Make sure you know your contract length. The contract length varies from program to program. You want to make sure you have control of the ground for the length of that contract and know whether or not if you're renting ground, you might need to get your landlord involved. So the PCM contracts are only 1 year, and that allows you to have flexibility as different programs come online to transition in and out of them. Another important aspect before you enroll is understanding your time burden on the farmer for some of these conservation finance programs. Will you have to do data entry? What is verification going to entail? Do you need to save receipts? Do you need to take a picture of your tillage devices? Any of those things? And does the program market credits for you, or is that on you to do as an enrollee? So we know you are spending a lot of time on your farm and making these decisions and transitioning anyway. And so PCM handles all of this for you. And I think this is something that really sets our program apart. You don't ever have to log onto a computer in order to enroll in PCM, to sell carbon credits through PCM, any of that. We handle all of that for you. We also will not enroll you if we don't already have a buyer for your credits. And so that's also very important. Again, understanding how you're going to be paid and what you're going to be paid for is just as important as understanding your contract length and your time burden. So there are 3 ways farmers are really paid for conservation right now. You can be paid for practice, which is a set price per acre. You can be paid for outcomes, so that is tons of CO2 equivalent per acre. So that's something you would get through, for example, Soil and Water Outcomes Fund or Indigo. And then you can also get a carbon intensity score. So 45Z just went into effect this year. And that's essentially a modeled intensity score that's a premium on bushels. So PCM has taken the approach of paying per acre for practice regardless of outcome. And that's because we know whether you store 2 tons or half a ton of carbon in the soil, putting in cover crops, or converting to no-till, reducing your nitrogen, all have the same cost. And so we want to make sure you know what you're being compensated for when you enroll. Again, it's really important to know what the funding source is and who the funding source is before you enroll in a program, just to make sure you don't actually accidentally double dip. There are more conservation finance programs now than probably ever before, and they all have a variety of different funding mechanisms, and you just don't want to end up in a double dipping situation. So make sure you know whether the funding source is federal, state, private, or hybrid. We even have programs that combine federal and private funding. And so just really communicate with your specialist if you know you've already enrolled in a program, so we can figure out how to stack this for you. As you can see from this picture, it can be very confusing to stack all of these things. And so we will keep track of this for you and help you stack those payments when possible. Our specialists are really, really good about this and want to make sure you don't end up accidentally double dipping. And then finally, all of these markets, all these conservation finance programs really run on the exchange of data. Luckily for you, the same data you provide to PCM for your benchmarking is the same data we would need to enroll you in any of the programs mentioned. But before you enroll with us or any other program, make sure you know who owns the data, how it will be used, whether or not it's going to be shared with the USDA, and whether or not it can be sold to any other entity. PCM instantly anonymizes your data and never shares it with anyone unless it's part of an aggregated analysis or with your consent only due to grant funding. So some of our USDA grants, we do have to report some data back to them about your farm, but that is the only time that happens. Neither Pepsi nor the KDA ever get any of that information. Now that you have asked your program reps some questions about the program and you've decided to enroll in one, and we really hope it is ours, there are just some things you can do to prepare for enrollment. So understanding your conservation goals on your farm is really the first and most important thing you can do. You want to make sure you enroll in a program that matches that goal. The goal of that program matches the program or matches the goals on your farm as well. You're not going to get rich selling carbon credits. You're here to sell grain, and so make sure these are all working in tandem well. For a lot of these newer programs, it's probably too early to enroll the farm in one program. So start with a few fields at a time, get a feel for the program, understand the parameters, and see how it works. Be prepared with good conservation agronomy. PCM has access to a ton of conservation agronomists to help you with your transition into conservation agriculture. And that really needs, the agronomy needs and the profitability needs to lead the way on that. And hopefully the conservation programming and funding can help as you work through it. So as we've talked about multiple times, records and data are the key to receiving the highest dollar for your work. So get your data ready. PCM has a few different resources. In fact, as you see your PCM specialist this winter, or again in the spring for enrollment, we actually have a really cool data collection book that can help you keep track of that throughout the year. And then finally, make sure you're reviewing all your different options for ecosystem service markets or financial incentives in the state. The Illinois Sustainable Ag Partnership has put together a really, really awesome tool where you're able to compare and contrast funding opportunities across the state. So encourage you to visit ilsustainableag.org/find tool. And I think it's right on their splash page as well. A lot of work went into that best resource in the state for comparing different programs. So now that you've chosen a program and you're in, just some things to pay attention to. Make sure you will be farming that land for the length of your contract. Again, can't stress this enough, understand your funding type. Is it a carbon market? Is it state funding? Is it federal funding? Is it a combination of all three? Be sure to understand the contract fine print and the full terms of your agreement. For example, if you're planning to tile a field, might not be a great field to enroll in a carbon program initially. There are some certain things and certain carbon program contracts that would negate and potentially put you in a situation to have to pay funding back. We don't have any caveats like that, but if you're working with PCM for the benchmarking and enrolled in another financial program, just make sure you're paying attention to that. And again, pay attention to how the program will use your data. And finally, pay attention to any verification methods. Are you going to need to keep receipts? Will someone be visiting your field? All the programs do some sort of modeling, and satellites are often common as well. Within PCM, we do perform verification on about 5 to 10% of the fields in the program. And so that will be a specialist coming to visit your farm and just take a quick picture of your field. Those photos stay within the program unless specifically for a USDA program, and then would only be provided during an audit, and you would be notified of all of that. And again, enrolling in certain programs excludes you from enrolling in other programs oftentimes. So just as you're looking to stack these things, increase your payment level, make sure you read the fine print on program exclusions. So, and then as especially some of the federally funded programs have come out, such as Climate Smart or EQIP, don't assume they all have the same planting standards and program requirements. Make sure you're talking to your individual program reps because, different programs have negotiated different things with NRCS, and you just don't want to accidentally get kicked out of a program because of a planting rate technicality. So that is the overview of conservation funding within PCM. So just wanted to wrap up with a summary of how PCM can help you on your farm. The first thing PCM can do is help you get a better understanding of your farm financials and reveal a pathway to profitable conservation farming. Again, this is a free service to all farmers in PCM regions, and we actually pay you for your first 2 years participating in that. After we benchmark your operation, that's when we can start providing you with conservation funding from our partners. And again, we can even provide those incentives for previous use of cover crops and no-till. And if you're not enrolling in one of our conservation program funding programs, our PCM specialists understand the conservation program options in their state, whether that's Illinois, Kentucky, Nebraska, and hopefully Missouri soon. And so, you know, whether you receive funding for conservation through PCM or someone else, our goal is to help you get that on the ground. And so really engage your specialist as you're making those decisions. Again, this is a QR code to our website. If you'd like to learn more about any of the data Greg shared earlier, check out our staff and then see which programs are available to you. Go to precisionconservation.org or scan the QR code. And with
Thank you very much, Megan. I appreciate the time you both took to put this program together. We'll bring that QR code back up in just a bit, Megan. I'll have you run back to that particular slide in just a moment. But just as a reminder, I'm Todd Gleason, your host of the day. I'm farm broadcaster here at the U of I. If you have questions, go ahead and put those into the question box. We'll get those answered in just a moment. That box is up on the right-hand side of your page. It has a little question mark in it. You can just type those questions out. Upcoming PCM webinars include, this is the first of 6. They're every other month. They include the yield trap, cover crops and weed management, small nitrogen management, the hidden cost of extra tillage passes, conservation incentives as well. So you can look forward to those. You're already signed up for them, so you have no need to do anything else. You're already there. And you will get notice in your email that they are coming up every other month, starting in April, then June, August, October, and December. Our sponsors include here today the TIA Center for Farmland Research, along with CoBank, Compere Financial, Corteva, Farm Credit Illinois, Growmark, of course, the Illinois Corn Growers Association, and the Illinois Soybean Association. And our educational partners are the College of Agricultural, Consumer, and Environmental Sciences, the Department of Agricultural and Consumer Economics, FBFM, and the Gardner Agricultural Policy Program. If you can go back to that QR code, I think you can probably just leave that up for them for just a bit in case they want to scan it with their phones, if they happen to be in a place that they can do that, or maybe just snap a picture off their phone. Screenshot, that is, so that they have it, or even better, they could download the PowerPoints. Again, you can do that depending on where you're what device you're in. It's either at the top, you're looking for the little paper clip and the piece of paper, or it's at the bottom under the 3 dots if you're on a smaller device, and more. And then you'll find a way to get to the PowerPoint so that you can download those. So let's get started with some questions. The first question that was asked, and this was quite some time ago, but I think you probably have seen it and can get it answered, and then I'll let you kind of run through questions as you see fit. If you don't happen to live in a county which is listed as a PCM county, how do you get started in this program, or can you get started in the program?
Yeah, excellent question. I can take this one, Todd. I would encourage you, to look at our data publications on our website. I think it's under free resources or farmer resources, and essentially can give a bit of background info on just how sort of the initial territories PCM launched in and some of the ones that were added came about. But first off, if we're not in that county, we're probably not going to be able to work with you directly at this time, but please do stay tuned. We are constantly looking for new opportunities to be able to expand and offer PCM in areas where we aren't currently at. But as we have looked in the past to basically be able to offer advice to folks and provide good insights, the initial PCM regions were laid out in a way that was meant to try to represent farmers in the entire state. Arguably, it's done the best in Illinois. We have the most regions in Illinois. We have 8 in Illinois. But we're currently operating in areas where we believe it represents most of the soil types in the state, as well as most of the weather patterns that are going to be received throughout the state. And last year, for the first time, in addition to the business case for conservation on high SPR soils, we released also a business case document for low SPR soils. And so please do reference those, but reach out to us, and we'd be happy to chat with you more.
We're coming up on the top of the hour, so if you need to leave us, that's fine. Otherwise, we will stick around for a while and continue answering questions. So you see another question you'd like to take up?
Do you want to answer?
I'll tell you what, I will run through one of the questions. This next question was wondering, that was asking that they had, and this will be a question that many people asked, they were prepping to enroll in CSP for cover cropping, and then they heard that maybe that funding might not come through. This, of course, is a part of the grants and funding problems that the Trump administration has triggered across much of the government. Usually this is targeted those that would be stopped if they're not direct payments to an individual. So what do we know as it's related to this kind of funding?
So this is, I would say, an actively changing situation right now. I will say, while they might be halting enrollments right now, the Farm Bill is a very stable piece of legislation. And so even if potentially some of these ancillary programs that were funded by the past administration don't make it all the way through, we feel very hopeful that, the Farm Bill will come together. And so while they might be pausing right now, stay in contact with your NRCS rep. And as soon as we know anything, we will share with you. But as we've all seen, some of those orders are kind of moving around pretty quickly. So,
other questions that you're following along that you want to answer right away?
Yeah, we can just go through them one by one. I'm totally happy to do that and stick around if people have the time. Sure. The next one, do you also work with landowners that are not actively involved with farming? What advice would you give to a landowner interested in trying conservation practices? Our family has both cash rent and custom farmed land. I would say, please do reach out to us, especially if you live in one of our current territories that it's obvious and you saw one of the counties on our website. Please do reach out to us. We typically try to work with, farmers, those who are actively the ones farming the land. But if you are a landowner and interested, we would be happy to discuss your situation and, potentially work with the tenants that you have farming your land. So happy to do that. Just let us know. And yes, there are programs out there that you would probably be eligible for.
If you're just following along. Go ahead.
I will add that landowner buy-in is really, really important when switching to conservation agriculture, especially in a cash rent situation. With cover crops and potentially with nitrogen reduction, you could be impacting yield at times there, and that's going to impact your profitability at the end of the day. And so having landowner buy-in and understanding of that is critical for us all to be able to work together, especially in Illinois where we have such high levels of cash rent.
We'll just work our way through the questions. The next one says, it looks like the World Economic Forum slide shows that if you engage in the conservation practices that they studied for enough years, it does become profitable. Do they understand that slide correctly?
So I believe you do, based on the information provided in that slide. What I will say is it may depend on where you are and your soil fertility that is already there versus how much you stand to improve it by adopting those practices. And it may depend on, what practices you already are doing. So if you are, say, doing multiple tillage passes beyond the level to which we have identified as profitable, no-till very well could be a more profitable approach for you. Same with if you are over applying nitrogen. Cover cropping, we've identified and put out a publication early in 2024 that Dr. Gary Schnicke helped us put out called Managing Risks with Cover Crops. That was actually a deep dive into some of the most profitable farmers using cover crops in the PCM program. They provided a lot of valuable insights on how they best do that profitably. So would refer you to that as well. But we do believe that it is profitable or can be profitable. In time.
What's up next from your side?
Let's see. More of a general comment. I believe we saw that from Greg McIsaac, who works in this space, University of Illinois researcher, but just mentioned there has been progress in reducing nitrate loads in rivers in much of the tile drained area. And he says some info coming out in that on that in progress. So we look forward to seeing that and really appreciate the work Greg does and others who've co-authored some of the papers he's put out.
I think there may only be one more question left. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that from Laura? So the question, how does the nitrogen reduction payment work? And how much do you have to reduce N by? Is it just for corn?
Yes. So basically, if we're able to demonstrate that you have reduced nitrogen application by 10% down to, again, 10% reduction from your baseline, you can be paid $10 an acre for that. And it is just for corn. But yeah, would love to work with any producers that are considering nitrogen reduction or who may be currently applying, over the recommended amount, especially the MRTN rate. And yeah, please do reach out to us with questions on that.
Megan, if you could bring that final slide in the series up with the FarmDoc Daily website on it, I would appreciate it. Thank you to Megan Miller and to Greg Goodwin, who are both here from the PCM program at the Illinois Corn Growers Association. You've been watching, of course, a FarmDoc webinar. This is the first in a series of 6. They are every other month. If you're with us, you have already signed up. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube or from our FarmDoc Daily website, go ahead and look into the webinar section of farmdocdaily.illinois.edu, and you can sign up for the program. You'll find other things there as well, including the upcoming All-Dag Outlook at the Beef House in Covington, Indiana. That's a live program on Tuesday, March the 4th. The whole of the FarmDoc team, or many of them, will be there, along with the folks that I talked to about the markets and the weather at WILL AM 580, and we'd be glad to have you there as well. That's an in-person conference. The cost for it is just $40. Again, thank you both to Megan and to Greg for being with us, and to Jim Baltz, who's behind the scenes as our technical director. You have a very good day. I'm Todd Gleason.